for joining us today. We're really glad that you're here and you're investing time to learn more about well-being and professional growth. My name is Cheryl Lee, and I'm the National Sales Manager here with Andau Medical, and we are pleased to host this webinar this evening. A few things before we begin. Today's webinar is 90 minutes. It's 1.5 CE credits. So to receive your CE, please be sure to stay on for the full session. And there'll be a QR code at the end of the webinar, so you can fill that out. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can see here that the chat is open. So please put your questions in there, and then there'll be some time for Q&A at the end. And we'll be monitoring those as well. And just so that if you can't stay on for the whole session, or you want to rewatch certain parts of this webinar, it will be recorded. And we will be having some promotions, so do stay tuned for the end of the session to hear all about those. So let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Dr. Diana Louie. Dr. Louie is a practicing dentist on the West Coast in Canada, and she is the founder of Rest to Thrive, a wellness education company that's devoted to helping professionals build success without sacrificing their body, health, or nervous system. So she believes in true success. It's just not just what your career looks like on paper, but actually how you feel with your body, your energy, in your life. So her work focuses on what she calls the missing link. And I'll let her, elaborate that during her presentation. But she teaches mindfulness-based approaches. She's a certified yoga and meditation teacher. And she's now delivering workshops, programs, and retreats to dental professionals and high-performing teams. So please welcome Dr. Diana Louie.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, for the introduction, and also Andau for the opportunity to talk about a topic that I am very deeply passionate about. And so before we begin, I'm just going to share my screen. So I have a presentation. So just going to, share. Let's see if we can get this. Okay. Can everyone see my screen clearly? Okay, great. Okay, well, so thank you everyone for taking the time to join and taking this time for your health and wellness. And because as we know, dentistry is one of the highest, most stressful environments. And I did not know this when I first signed up for dentistry, but it's obviously, we know it's very taxing physically on the body, but also there's such a mental and emotional drain. And, we were never taught in school by our teachers or by our parents. And if you have parents that taught you this, like, you have great parents, but how to metabolize our stress in a healthy way, as well as protect our body from injury or damage due to our profession. And for me, I learned the hard way through through burning out multiple times, and I also had some health scares. And so today I'm really excited to share with you these tools, which I call the missing link, because it's not, a lot of these tools you might not know about, or even just different perspective shifts of how we view stress, and so that we can practice dentistry sustainably. And so today, we're going to go into recognizing some of the early warning signs of musculoskeletal disorder. So just like teeth, right? There's early warning signs like chewing and you feel chewing to sweets, or sensitivity to cold. These are early warning signs for our teeth. But then when the pain becomes lingering, throbbing, it's affecting our sleep, you know that the decay has progressed deeper and more invasive treatment will be needed. So the same thing with our bodies. And so we want to know what these early warning signs are. We're also going to go into understanding the role of the nervous system in our stress physiology. So, we probably learned about the nervous system in school, but not in the relationship of how it serves a massive role in how we understand the physiology of how stress and chronic inflammation shows up in our body. Also, you're going to learn tools, very simple, effective tools to metabolize stress in real time so that we can experience calm even in the storms of dentistry, even in these high pressure moments, which happen all the time in dentistry. And you'll be able to apply practices to reduce pain as well as improve sustainability, so being able to work a long time without having to retire early due to damage to our body, and most importantly being able to enjoy our retirement years, right? We don't want to work to the point where we now have all this free time and then we don't feel well in our body. So I'm really excited to share with you these tools. And before we begin, I'm going to share with you a tool right off the bat. So I encourage you to join along, because this will not only just be sharing a really valuable knowledge with you, but also tools to be able to connect deeper to our bodies, and we'll be metabolizing our stress in real time right now. So, we're gonna start by, so if you're sitting in a chair, you could be sitting on the ground here, and just taking your left hand to your heart and your right hand to your belly. Maybe closing the eyes if it feels safe to close your eyes, or you can take a soft gaze at your nose. And just feeling the left hand touching your chest, notice your heartbeat. Notice the pace of your heart, the rhythm. And now noticing your breath. Notice the pace of your breath. Are you breathing really quickly? Is your heart racing? Or is your heart slow? Or is your breath deep? And without changing anything, just bringing awareness to what's here without any judgment. Now I'm going to guide you through a breath tool that you can use to metabolize stress. So you're going to take a deep breath in through the nose, breathing into your belly. A second breath into the chest. And exhale out the mouth for 6 counts. And again, deep breath into the belly through your nose. Second breath into the chest. And sigh out your mouth. So it's a double inhale. And one more time, deep breath into the belly, into the chest, filling up your whole body with breath. And exhale all the way out through the mouth. And just notice any shifts after these 3 physiological side breaths. Notice if your breath has naturally started to deepen. Notice if your breath is naturally starting to slow down. And now feeling the ground beneath you, so you could be noticing the chair beneath your sit bones. If you're sitting in a chair, noticing your backrest of the chair touching your spine. As you feel the hard surface beneath you, bringing awareness to your muscles and notice where you're still tensing. So sometimes we can be holding tension without realizing it. So noticing your legs, see if you can soften your legs. So if you're sitting in a chair, see if you can relax all the muscles in your legs, feeling your hips drop, your knees drop. And now bringing awareness to your shoulders, see if you're still tensing and activating your shoulders, just maybe even a gentle roll down and back, away from your ears. And noticing your jaw, if you feel your teeth clenched, just wiggle the jaw side to side, softening your jaw, temples, forehead. And just taking a moment to notice how you feel after experiencing this, experiencing conscious breathing, mindful connection. Notice how you feel. You could open your eyes, and yeah, I'm so curious how that practice, I think it was like 3 minutes, how that felt for you. Maybe you feel more present, more relaxed. How is everyone feeling? Just drop in the chat. Let me see if I can. Here's the chat. Okay. Definitely more relaxed. Cheryl, more relaxed for sure. Great. And I'm curious if you noticed maybe even your thoughts starting to slow down. Donna wrote, less tension in my jaw. Sarah, calm and relaxed. Yeah, just this simple experience of bringing our awareness to our bodies. And yeah, I'm also curious if you notice your thoughts start to slow down. So sometimes when we are more connected to our bodies and our breath, our thoughts might not be as busy. So I'm curious if you felt that as well. So yeah, so this is one of the tools. I'll go into more of the science of what we just experienced, but this is called the physiological sigh breath, and I'll go more into this breath later in the presentation. But a lot of these tools, they don't take a long time, and we can really shift the way we move through life through integrating a lot of these simple practices. And so if we never met before, my name is Diana, and I am a dentist. I was a U of T grad about 10 years ago. So yeah, I'm originally from Ontario, and now I live in British Columbia, next to Vancouver. It's a little town called Gibsons. And I'm also a mom. So I have a 2.5-year-old, and this is him in the picture. He's only 1 year old, which is crazy how time flies when you have a little one. I'm also curious, any other parents here? Any other parents here? And I'm curious if you have like a little one, in the toddler phase, or how old are your kids? And if you are a parent, that it is one of the most joyful experiences, but it's also one of the most challenging. And there can be a lot of stress with, caring for our kids. And so today, we're not only going to learn tools to support our dental career, but also these tools you can use at home in your home life. And then you can also teach these tools to your kids and to your patients. And so a lot of these tools will help us develop more patience, be less reactive, and become more present. And just looking in the chat, Kimberly, what a cutie. Mine's 19. Monica, 8-year-old daughter. Megan, 11. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing. And if you're also wondering, he's also a red-haired Asian baby, which was really rare. My partner's English, and so he ended up getting red hair, which is kind of cool. So when I signed up for this career as a dentist, I thought my life would look like this. Happy-go-lucky people, financially stable, secure, a fulfilling career, good work-life balance. And this was what was sold to me. And I thought it would be like happily ever after, I've made it. But the reality of dentistry looks more like this, right? I feel like this picture just depicts it all. One of the most highest stress work environments, because if you're a dentist listening, we're doing micro surgeries and working on a millimeter level, and so there needs to be so much precision. On top of that, you're working in a live human with a big tongue, lots of saliva, lots of blood. Sometimes you can't see what you're doing. And on top of that, you have patients that have really high expectations, that they're anxious. So, like, right? Like most of our patients, a lot of them are anxious, and we're holding space for that. And so that does affect us. And on top of that, we might have disappointed patients, angry patients, people saying, I hate coming to see you, hearing that day in, day out. It just doesn't feel good over time. Once I actually had a patient say to me that I'd rather give childbirth than be in the chair right now, which is like pretty extreme, but you hear it all. And on top of that, it's such a fast-paced environment where a lot of times we don't, we work through our lunch, right? We forget to drink water. And then there's all these like things that happen where we don't, like, that are unexpected. The machine breaks down, a staff is sick, and now we're short staffed. And and then there's all these like regulatory changes with CDCP and all of that that's happening. And then there's lots of personalities, right, at our office, and not every personality gets along. So there's drama, there's staff conflicts. And this is not including all the stuff that we're dealing with at home, right? If our kids are struggling at school or dealing with anxiety or illness, loss. I mean, it is so much. So I call this the dental nervous system load, the physical, mental, and emotional tax that we carry. And so we get hit after hit of stress. And we may have not even recovered from that stress the day before. And if we don't have the tools to metabolize that stress, it can lead to burnout. So this is exactly what happened to me. I didn't burn out just once. I burnt out 3 times in my 10 years of dentistry. And there's been many times I've wondered if I should quit, if maybe there's other jobs that are less stressful than dentistry. Yes, there is. And is this career truly sustainable? Has anyone had these thoughts? Drop in the chat if you've had these thoughts before, because you're not alone. I'm sure all of us have felt it to different degrees. And so at that time when I first burnt out, it was one of my worst burnouts. I didn't have any tools to metabolize my stress, and I didn't have tools to help me calm my mind. So I was overthinking, overanalyzing, really anxious. And at that time, I would prioritize, CE credits. Like I thought, okay, maybe I just needed to learn more clinical skills. So I invested thousands of dollars learning clinical skills, and it didn't really help my mind. I was still beating myself up, doubting my decisions. I was still ruminating about patient cases in bed. And even though there was improvement in my clinical skills, it wasn't calming that voice, which you might have heard of as your inner critic, or that itty bitty shitty committee that's inside of our heads that's telling us we did the wrong thing, or maybe we should have done something else, and that can follow us to our sleep. And for me, it got to the point where it was so bad that I had developed 6 months of insomnia. I could not shut off my mind, and then so I was like really, really sleep deprived, which doesn't help with how we feel. And then one day I had a really scary health issue come up where I woke up one morning and I lost sensation, I lost feeling in my fingers. And of course, I'm freaking out because obviously these are our livelihood. And I, thought maybe it was rheumatoid arthritis. So I went to see a rheumatologist. I got tested, and this numbness was like present for a whole month. And she ran tests and she couldn't find anything. And so she started to ask me about my stress levels and my sleep, none of which were good. And she said that she sees this a lot in her clinical practice where chronic stress can lead to chronic inflammation, which can lead to all sorts of weird symptoms happening in our bodies. So we could be experiencing gut issues. A lot of gut issues are inflammatory in nature, joint pain, headaches, skin breakouts, right? So there's so many ways that stress can manifest physically in the body. And that was the first time I linked chronic stress with chronic inflammation with these symptoms that I was experiencing. And if you've ever had any of these symptoms, I'm so curious if you've had something similar. Maybe you have your own stories around this. And luckily, when during that time, my mom, who was 45 years old at the time, she randomly decided to get her yoga teacher's training. So that's me and my mom in the picture. And she was watching my health deteriorate, and she was begging me to try yoga. So at the time, I had no interest in yoga. It wasn't even on my radar, but she said that she thought it could really help me. And so I didn't have any tools, so I just committed. I joined a local yoga studio, and I committed to this 30-day yoga challenge. It was like $30 for 30 days. And when I started going at first, it was very awkward. They were talking in Sanskrit. There was all these like weird postures that I was doing, and I was like upside down. It felt really strange. But I kept going. I kept showing up. And eventually, I started to notice shifts in my body. I started to notice my anxiety start to go down. I started to feel this brain fog that I was experiencing start to lift. I was sleeping better, which was like, oh my gosh, like it was crazy how it was actually improving my sleep. And the sensations in my hands was starting to come back. And I was just blown away with what was happening in my body. And so I was pretty obsessed with it because I wanted to understand, like scientifically, what was happening physiologically in my body through yoga. So I started studying yoga and meditation. I got my teacher's training in dental school. I started to really invest my money into wellness. And so I was taking all these courses, going on these retreats, and learning all different tools like breath work, MBSR, which I'll go into, mindfulness based stress reduction. And I got my health coaching certification. So there were so many tools that I was developing to support myself. And as I was studying all of these tools, I noticed one thing in common to every single tool. One thing in common. And the thing that they all had in common was they all elicited the relaxation response. They all take the body into a deep rest state. So when our body accesses deep rest, it is literally our body's natural innate healer. So it's kind of like if you thought of taking a pill that could decrease your inflammation, that could reduce your stress hormones, that balances all your hormones out, that repairs, that replenishes. It is eliciting the relaxation response and taking your body into deep rest, which was pretty profound. And so this is why I founded Rest to Thrive, which is my wellness company. And the mission of this company is to support ambitious professionals like myself, and a lot of the clients I work with, they're type A, they're ambitious, they're hardworking professionals to build success not at the cost of our bodies or health. Because if anyone who has gone through a health scare like me knows that nothing really matters anymore if we don't have our health. And so the tools that I've uncovered that can really support our profession, I want to pass it forward. I don't want to just keep it to myself, which is why I founded this company. And I host retreats, I work with people one-on-one, but I also share group programs to teach professionals these tools. And so today we're going to go into the science of stress and the nervous system. And I want to preface that, we can't really eliminate all stress in our life. Like, stress is a part of life because life will keep lifing, right? Like the patient that's disappointed, or your kids feeling anxious at school, or the argument that you had with your spouse. Like, there's always going to be stress in life. And life will always surprise us with the unexpected stress, right? And so this isn't about taking your stress away, but really we're going to learn how to build a different relationship with our stress and also gain tools to metabolize our stress in a healthy way. Beyond exercise, drinking water, eating healthy. I mean, these are also important, but beyond those things that we might have already known about. So I'm going to go into a little bit more about the stress response. And so if we were to break down like what is stress, essentially simplifying it is that stress is any demand that takes our body out of balance, out of homeostasis. So homeostasis is this built-in process that our body has to come back into balance. So for example, when we're thirsty, we feel this thirst, right? It's a feeling in our body that our body communicates to us, and it's telling our body that we need to drink water. Or if we're feeling tired, it's telling our bodies that we need rest. Except in our modern day life, when we get so focused on our work, when we get so busy, how many times do we might ignore that? We might forget to drink water. We might push through our exhaustion to just get done one more thing, right? And so over time, when we keep ignoring our body's cues, so our body is really wise, it's always giving us little signals to tell us to do things that maintain homeostasis. And so if we keep ignoring these body cues too often, too long, our body starts to lose efficiency to maintain that balance. And so I wanted to go now into the nervous system because this is one of the most important players in our stress response. And our nervous system is literally responsible for almost every single important function, like our breathing, our heart rate, our digestion, metabolism, our immune system, our pain perception, our sleep. And also it influences how we think, feel, and react. And the way I love to think about the nervous system is that if our body was like a house, our nervous system is the electrical wiring and communication network of our home. And so if the wiring is off in certain ways, this influences how everything communicates with each other. And so the nervous system has a component called the autonomic nervous system. So you can think of the autonomic nervous system as the part of their nervous system where we don't have to think about, right? So I don't have to think about my heart beating. I don't have to think about breathing. It's all doing those things to keep me alive. So that's the autonomic nervous system. And there's two components to that. So there's the sympathetic nervous system, which you probably have learned about. We're going to go deeper today, which is fight and flight. So we might have heard of it as fight and flight. So this part of our nervous system is for survival, right? So when we were hunter and gatherers, we either had to we had to go into the sympathetic. This has to be activated in order to fight and defend against a bear, or we would need to flee in flight, run away from the bear. So that was all to keep us alive. Yet today, in our modern day world, the bear is now all the hits of stress that happen, right? The angry patient, the argument that we had with a staff member, like that bear is here all the time. And on top of that, if our mind, if we're really like thinking a lot and worrying a lot, so that itty bitty shitty committee is really loud, this can also activate our sympathetic nervous system. And so, what is happening physiologically when we're in this response is that our breath can be short and shallow. Our heart is beating really fast. The temperature in our body is really hot. It can be very sweaty. And then in our muscles, we can be really tense in our neck. We can be really clenching our teeth, right? So a lot of muscle tension. And hormonally, what's happening is it's spiking up our cortisol levels, our adrenaline. And when that is being spiked for too long, so chronically, this is what leads to chronic inflammation. And that chronic inflammation is what leads to all these crazy symptoms that's happening in our body, right? Where we're having gut issues like IBS or SIBO, or sometimes our skin just breaks out into hives, or we, what I got with it, which is the numbness in my fingers or other areas of numbness in the body. And one of the biggest ones that happen with chronic inflammation is autoimmune disease, where our body starts to attack itself. Unfortunately, though, we have the other part of our autonomic nervous system, which is our parasympathetic nervous system. And you might have heard this, in science, in school, as rest and digest. But the way I love to think about our parasympathetic nervous system is it's our body's innate healer. It's our repair system. And when this is switched on, we can actually reverse chronic inflammation and pain. We can actually optimize our digestion, our sleep, our immunity. And when this is switched on, the opposite happens with our body. Our heart rate starts to slow down. Our breathing starts to be more deep and slow. So we're belly breathing rather than the short, shallow chest breathing. And our temperature starts to cool. So when we're sleeping at night, our temperature drops, right? Because we're going deep into the parasympathetic. And our muscles start to relax. And so when we are activating our parasympathetic nervous system for a big chunk of our day, everything will start to work for us and not against us. Rather than our bodies breaking down and deteriorating as we're aging, we can actually start to slow down our aging process because we're more in repair and recovery and regeneration. And so this is the missing link that not many people talk about, is parasympathetic activation. And this requires learning how to elicit our relaxation response. And unfortunately, in our go, modern day living, where there's always so much to do, so much information coming at us, like so much responsibility, that rest and relaxation has become a lost skill. And so a lot of the clients that come work with me, they say to me, like, I can't relax. Like, my mind won't stop racing or overthinking. Or people come to me, saying that I can't sit still. It feels uncomfortable to slow down. I can't stop being productive. I always need to keep doing things, right? And even when we think we're resting, so sometimes, a lot of people think that rest is just lying down and watching a show. But if that show on Netflix is really activating. So an action movie, a drama movie that's speeding up your heart rate, that's making your head run, that's, you know, making you feel like you're in that sympathetic activation, we're not actually accessing real rest. Or sometimes we're like lying down looking on at our phone, but if we're reading the news or something fearful that's like sending us into that sympathetic activation, we're not really accessing deep quality daytime rest. The, the good news is that this is a complete trainable skill. And so we can develop the skills by incorporating certain tools that help us access real relaxation. So I'm gonna share with you one of those tools, and we're gonna experience this together. So this is called tense and release, and this tool is really helpful if you feel stressed or overwhelmed and you notice your muscles get super tense and that you have trouble relaxing and resting. So this is a tool that can be very helpful for that I wanted to share with you. Okay, so we're gonna go through this tool together. And so basically, I'm just gonna guide you through. So just maybe closing your eyes and just taking a moment to feel your hands. So just feeling our hands here and just resting your hands on your legs. Taking a moment just to notice how you're feeling. So notice if you're holding tension anywhere in your body. So maybe you're feeling your shoulders still getting a little hiked up. And I'm going to guide you along. So you're going to take a deep breath in through your nose. And now squeeze your face, squeeze your hands, squeeze your toes, squeeze your arms, squeeze your legs, squeeze your whole body, and hold your breath. And exhale out the mouth. Just feeling all your muscles relax. We're gonna do this 2 more times. So take another deep breath in through the nose. And squeeze your face, squeeze your fists, squeeze your feet, squeeze your whole body, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And exhale out the mouth, feeling all your muscles relax. And we're gonna do this 1 more time. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And squeeze your face, squeeze your fists, squeeze your whole body, squeeze your toes and your face, squeeze, 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 and exhale. Just letting everything relax. Just bringing the awareness to your facial muscles, feeling all your facial muscles relax, your temples, your forehead, your jaw, your shoulders, feeling your arms get nice and heavy, feeling all 5 fingers completely relax. Feeling your legs get heavy, your toes, your hips. And feeling your entire body completely relaxed. And just noticing how you feel. Oops. How is everyone feeling after that experience? Drop in the chat. How are you feeling? Stacy said relaxed. Really good, Cheryl said. Yeah, amazing. Very good. Amazing. Okay, yeah. Sarah said like weight leaving my body. Less tension in my shoulders. Okay, great. Yes. So you just experienced in real time just a really simple tool of how we can activate that parasympathetic nervous system, that relaxation response. And how long did that take? Like, I think that was like 2 minutes. So really fast, right? And so this is a tool you can use anytime, especially, you know, at the office too, sitting in your chair. Like you don't have to close your eyes doing this. You can be sometimes even, you know, taking a break from with patients, or sometimes I even do it in the chair. And you can squeeze, 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 right? And no one's gonna know you're doing this. And also, this is something we can teach our patients. How many anxious patients do we have? We can literally help our patients feel more relaxed so quickly from this tool, and our kids too. So we can share this tool, but first and foremost, applying it to ourselves. Hold on, let me just make sure. Can everyone see? I just want to make sure my box, the screen. Okay. Okay, so this is probably better. Um, so here's the guidance of how to do this tool, but as you just experience, it's just inhale, we're gonna hold our breath, squeeze all our muscles, and exhale out the mouth, letting all our muscles soften. It's so simple, and just repeating that 3 times can be so effective. Okay, so I'm gonna share a little bit more about healthy stress. Okay, sorry for there we go. So, like I said, that we cannot eliminate stress, and stress is always gonna happen. But in healthy stress, there is going to be a sharp on and a sharp off. So when the stress comes at us, it's going to send our whole system above what's called our nervous system capacity or threshold. So that's the dotted line you see. And when it goes above it, it's going to feel intense. But what we want is stress off, which is recovery, which is learning tools to digest our stress, to elicit the relaxation response, to turn on that parasympathetic state, right? And so the curve should be sharp on, sharp off, recovery, sharp on, sharp off, recovery, right? And if you look at our baseline state, it's way below our nervous system threshold or capacity. So we're operating our baseline state as really far away from our capacity. But for a lot of people, what ends up happening is when stress happens, our system goes sharp on, and really there's no off. There's no recovery. And what is happening is we are operating at our nervous system capacity or threshold. So we can be above the line or near the line or slightly below the line. And when we are operating this way, what it feels like is that the littlest thing can set you off or bother you. So feeling more on edge, agitated, easily reactive, losing our patience. And so at home, this could look like, maybe our partners put the dishes the wrong way or the way that we didn't want him or her to put the dishes in, and that sets us off. Or being very irritated at our dental assistant or a staff member, or taking it out on our kids and being reactive, right? And over time, this can unfortunately start to affect the people we love, and we obviously don't mean it. And a lot of times we feel like really guilty, right? This is part of being human. We all go through this. But, sometimes we might think when this is happening that, like, is my personality changing? Like, am I turning into the Grinch? Like, what is happening in my body? And the answer is no. This has nothing to do with your personality. You're not turning into a Grinch. What's happening is that you're operating too close or above your nervous system capacity. And this is a recipe for burnout. This is a recipe for, more pain, chronic fatigue, inflammation in our body, and that is all to do with the nervous system. And so there's this thing called allostatic load, a terminology, where we accumulate so much stress to the point there is our ability for our body to return to homeostasis is no longer operating well anymore. And another way I like to explain this is that if you think of a closet, right? And we have all this stuff in our closet, clothes and suitcases and all sorts of things in our closet. If we don't have the tools to metabolize our stress, to elicit the relaxation response, all this stuff continues to accumulate. So everything in our closet is like a stress hit, right? and it could be big stress hits like going through a divorce or a loss, or it could be those little stress hits. And over time, we feel like there's no breathing room in our closet. So the way that we create more space in our closet is we donate those clothes. We give them away. So that's the way we think about digesting the stress. Like food, we digest our food, we can digest our stress. So then we can start to donate those clothes, and all of a sudden, I have more breathing room, right? There's more space in my closet. Another way we can create more space is we get a bigger closet. We increase our closet size. In other words, we learn how to increase our nervous system capacity. And so this is what I teach in my deeper programs. So I have a full program called From Aches to Ease, and we learn about how to increase our closet size and how we can donate those clothes so that we have more breathing room and space. Okay, so I'm going to teach you another tool to metabolize stress. And so this tool also doesn't take that long. So we're gonna go through it together. And you had already experienced this tool in the beginning, but we're gonna go through it again. So this is called the physiological sigh breath. And you're gonna take your left hand to your heart and your right hand to your belly. And closing your eyes again, if that's available to you, or soft gaze at the nose. And that just helps us tune in and drop into our body. So it's eliminating all the distractions around us and really connecting. And again, noticing our heart rate. Maybe our heart rate's still beating really fast. Noticing your breath. And so on your next breath, you're going to inhale through the nose, breathing into your belly. Second breath at the top into the chest. And exhale out the mouth for 6 counts. So it's a double inhale, again, through the nose into the belly, into the chest, and sigh out your mouth. And once more into the belly, into the chest, and sighing it out. And noticing any shifts after those 3 physiological sigh breaths. Maybe your breath has naturally started to slow down and deepen. Maybe you're feeling more calm, more present. And just opening your eyes and noticing how you feel. So how is everyone feeling after that tool? Yeah, drop into the chat. How are you feeling? What did you notice? Yeah, so hopefully everyone's feeling really good in their bodies. And someone wrote, I could probably go to bed now. Great, amazing. Yes, so our relaxation response is kicking on. We're metabolizing our stress in real time right now. So this is just a little, slide showing how we do this, but we've literally just experienced it, right, in real time. And this is really helpful for when we're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, frustrated, irritation, all those states where we're in our sympathetic nervous system, right, when that's kicking in. And so, remember that graph, sharp on, so this is helping us take that sharp on to sharp off. And this only took a minute. And again, this is another breath I love to share with my patients in the chair, especially if they're having anxiety and when I'm giving local anesthetic. So I actually, before the injection, I have them take that deep inhale, I inject, and as I'm administering the anesthetic, I help them, they exhale at the mouth. And they do that 3 times while I'm giving the injection, and it's super helpful. So this is definitely something we can share with our patients. And this breath, the reason why I'm sharing this particular breath practice is it's one of the most well-researched breath tools. So they did a study at the University of Stanford and by Dr. Andrew Huberman. So if you've ever heard of his podcast, which is a really great wellness podcast, the Huberman Lab. And this was a study done in 2023, so pretty recent. And he found, so he compared this particular breathing technique to other breathing styles like box breathing or Wim Hof breath, if you've ever heard of those, or mindfulness meditation. So there's all these tools that he compared it to. And he found that just 5 minutes a day of this breath work was shown to significantly reduce anxiety, improve our mood, make us feel more calm. And it was more effective than a lot of the other tools, which was amazing. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. And he found what was happening in the body was that it was decreasing our stress hormones, the cortisol levels, the adrenaline, decreasing inflammation in our body, and it was also decreasing oxidative stress. So if you ever heard of oxidative stress in relation to like fewer free radicals in our body. So when we have fewer free radicals, which are unstable molecules that can damage cells, and when there are too many free radicals, this can damage our DNA, cause mutations, disrupt normal cell function. And so over time, this can increase our risk for developing cancer. So this breath is very protective against those free radicals. So that's really cool. Okay, now we're going to move into mindfulness. And so a lot of these tools that I'm sharing with you also help us become more mindful. And there's a lot of buzzwords, mindfulness is kind of thrown around, everywhere these days. And I wanted to go deeper into like what is really mindfulness. And so I love this photo because it's showing a human and a dog walking. And if you look at the dog just sees what is there, the sun, the nature. Maybe the dog might be thinking about food. That's probably maybe the only thing that's in its head is food. But, dogs are so joyful. They're so unconditionally loving. And why is that? And really, I haven't looked into the research of this, but you can speculate that dogs don't have a lot going on in their heads, whereas humans have a lot of things going on in our heads, right? Our minds are always overthinking. This is part of being human. And our thoughts can only go in two directions. Either our thoughts can go into ruminating about the past, thinking about, something that just happened. I shouldn't have said this, or I shouldn't have done that. Or, we can ruminate in the past. Or we can be worrying about the future, something that hasn't even happened yet. And sometimes our mind can spiral into like worst case scenarios, or feeling anxious about something that hasn't even occurred. And then on top of that, right, we have that itty bitty shitty committee that we all obviously know about. And so when we're stuck in the past and the future, we're not really here. We're not really present. And mindfulness, so these different tools that we can practice, can help us become more present. And not only just present with our external environment, with the things that are happening in front of us and around us, but also become more aware and present of what's happening inside us, what's happening internally. So knowing, what types of thoughts are we having, and how is our thoughts affecting our emotions, and what are the physical sensations that we're experiencing in our bodies. And I'm going to just share a really practical way of how we can apply mindfulness in dentistry. So for example, a patient comes back with tooth pain after a filling we just did, right? And sometimes our mind can go into, or maybe we just did a cleaning on a patient, and the patient comes back with a bunch of sensitivity, and they're complaining. And so sometimes our mind can go into like worrying, did I do something wrong? Is this something that I caused? Right? And we can go into this spiraling of like, oh my gosh, did I forget to put the bond on? Did I etch for too long? Did I miss decay? Or, maybe did I cause a lot of discomfort if I'm cleaning that patient's teeth? Like, was I too aggressive? Right? And so we start to worry about all these different possibilities, and that worrying can send our nervous system into that fight and flight. So we activate the sympathetic nervous system, and then we start to feel physiologically, right? Our heart starts racing, we get sweaty, and all those physiological responses. And so how we can apply mindfulness is to first bring curiosity. So, really bring curiosity to our thoughts. Like, is that true? Did I forget bond? Did I, what is actually the truth? Like, questioning, like a scientist, the validity of our thoughts. And then kind of stepping back and pausing and bringing compassion and non judgment to that situation. So, you know, maybe it wasn't my fault, right? Or maybe it was something that, the patient bit on something funny, or the bite is too high, or there could be so many different possibilities. So just stepping back and not beating ourselves up, not judging ourselves. And that is the process of mindfulness. So one of the key principles of mindfulness is curiosity, compassion, acceptance, and non-judgment. And the more we practice that, I don't have time to go as deep as I want to for this topic. There's more, that I share in my program, but the more we can reframe the way we see things and the relationship that we have to our thoughts to become more empowering, to become more positive. And I'm just going to go briefly into the science of mindfulness. So sometimes, there might be this like connotation that mindfulness is woo, and really there is just so much science backing up mindfulness, and especially in terms of how they found with the research of how it's impacting our brain chemistry, and causing our brain to change, which is really amazing. So when back 10, maybe 15, 20 years ago, the outdated science, the old science used to think that, when we hit adolescence, our brain stays the same and that it's not capable of changing. But all the progressive modern science now is saying that our brains are actually capable of changing even as adults and older. And this is a process called neuroplasticity. So, in this research paper, it was a 2016 systematic review at the University of Edinburgh, and they compiled 30 studies, 13 randomized control studies, 9 cohort, 8 cross sectional. So, it was very high level. And they used MRI, neuroimaging, to study the brain changes after an 8-week mindfulness program. So this program is called MBSR, Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction Program. And this program was developed in 1979 by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. You might have heard of him. He's written many amazing books. He's a PhD in molecular biology, and he brought the research in science to mindfulness, and he developed this program to help people manage stress, anxiety, pain, and chronic illness. And in this program, there is mindful movement, there's meditation, there's breathing, there's mindfulness philosophy. And so I integrate a lot of the foundational tools from this program into my deeper program, because it's just so effective. And what they found is that so this program is 2 months. So it's an 8-week program. So that's 2 months. So in 2 months, they found changes in people's brain where their prefrontal cortex. So this is like the front lobe of our brain, and it's also known as the CEO of our brain. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for problem solving, for decision making, rational thinking, especially under stress and pressure. When stress and pressure happens and this gets switched on, that can be very powerful, right? Where we not go into reaction, but actually go into responsive problem solving and decision making. And they found that this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that CEO of our brain, was actually getting bigger. There was increased gray matter volume, there was more thickness, there was more connectivity. So there's more communication with other parts of the brain to the prefrontal cortex. And on top of that, they found growth and connection in the ACC, the anterior cingulate cortex, which is responsible for emotional regulation, which means that, having just more stable emotions during stressful events. And on top of that, they found that in the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and learning. So getting, improving our memory and learning abilities, and then also just like less risk of dementia down the road, right? And another cool result of this study was they found a shrinkage, so a decrease in size of the amygdala. So you might have heard the amygdala before as this primitive part of our brain, like the reptilian brain. And it's the part that when stress hits, we can be reactive, right? So the amygdala creates threat, creates fear, and survival states. And so for a lot of us, that can switch on when stress hits. The amygdala can switch on instead of the prefrontal cortex. But what they were finding with this study was that their amygdalas were shrinking in size. And so, and on the flip side though, if we're in chronic stress all the time and we're not using tools to support ourselves, our amygdala can actually grow in size too. So it can shrink in size if we are incorporating the right tools. And this is why, my deeper program that is 4 months long, because in 2 months, literally our brain can start changing. But what happens in 4 months, and we integrate these tools throughout our day for that length of time, that repetition is what can repattern our brain and create that neuroplasticity so that our baseline becomes more calm. Our baseline is relaxed rather than anxious or feeling overwhelmed. And so mindfulness is just not, nice to have. There's so much science of how it's impacting our physiology and our brain. And now we're going to move into a little bit more about a component of mindfulness, which is mindful movement. And this piece I wanted to share as one of the key ways that we can start protecting our bodies in dentistry from injury and shield ourselves from musculoskeletal disorder. And so, when I was looking into, because I was curious, like, what is the stats of, what does the research say about musculoskeletal disorder and dentistry? And so in this study by Brown and al. In 2010, I think they surveyed about a couple thousand so this is basically dentists, but I was trying to find one for dental professionals. But I mean, you could really, dentists and hygienists, and especially dental assistants, we're contorting our bodies and having that repetitive, motions, right, leading to repetitive strain injury. And so they found that the most common cause of ill health, early retirement among dentists was musculoskeletal disorder, and it's 55%. And I was like, wow, that's really high. That's almost like throwing flipping a coin on our health. And it's actually 5% more. So we're more likely to have that. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense because, we're sitting all day. So sitting's like the new smoking, right? But on top of that, we're having that forward head posture. If you don't have ergo loops, if you have ergo loops, you're sitting up straight. But if you don't have ergo loops, that forward head posture. And on top of that, we're doing this repetitive strain, like repetitive motion, right? And if we're working, let's say 5 years into our practice, working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, that's 10,000 hours like that. That's a lot of hours, just 5 years. And then if you're, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, that all accumulates. And then in this study, they found that the next most common reason was mental and behavioral stress related illnesses. So mental health and stress, and that's 28%. And one of the reasons what got really passionate about sharing these tools and sharing my program was because the owner of my office, he developed carpal tunnel. And he's been practicing for 30 years. And some of the early warning signs for him was numbness in his fingers and like almost seizing in his fingers, and his forearms. And now he's had to have surgery for his carpal tunnel. And he, has some of his feeling back, but it's not that degree of tactile sensation where he can return back to dentistry. And now he has to go for his second surgery because his pinky doesn't work properly. So, it breaks my heart to see this. And so that's been a big inspiration for me to share these tools, because a lot of times we can prevent this. And so what is musculoskeletal disorder? It's basically any damage to our muscles, our nerves, our joints, and the skeletal system. And it stems from muscle imbalances caused by repetitive motion in prolonged non-ergonomic positions, aka dentistry. And so, one of the biggest game changers in my, just feeling more at ease in my body and less strain is the ergonomic loops. And and so this was back 4 years ago. I had oroscopic loops. They were like 2.5 magnification. And I was finding that they were so heavy. Like they were the sports ones, and they were really pinching my nose and feeling really heavy. And I've been hearing a lot about ergonomic loops, so I was trying to search for different companies. I kept hearing about Andau, so like I had so many other friends that was referring me to Andau, and I didn't really know about you guys before. But I kept hearing about you guys, so I did end up trying, some of the other companies. So I went to Designs for Vision to try the ergonomic loops and other companies, and then I reached out to Cheryl, and we had because I live on the Sunshine Coast, I went and met her in Vancouver, and when I tried on the ergonomic loops with Andau, I was like blown away with how light these loops are. And it was lighter than mine, because I always thought ergo loops would be heavier than the regular loops, but they're actually like so light. And anyways, and so when I first tried them on, it took me a while to get used to it. In the beginning, I remember just doing my exams with it, and then slowly starting with like easy feelings, and eventually, I think I adjusted in a couple weeks. But the difference in my body was significant. So this is a picture of me wearing my ergonomic loops, and it's kind of funny with my assistant because it looks like we're like staring at her, but really we're looking down. But it's just it's a funny adjustment even for my assistant. But I just love it so much, and it's made from titanium, which is such good quality. And I found that the support I had with Andau, the genuine care from the company was amazing. And so when we connected about and I just found that Andau is so committed to the health and well-being of clinicians, and I am too. So I felt that our missions were so aligned, and so we decided to collaborate. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share. But most importantly too, with the ergonomic loops, my dentistry has improved. So I have the 4.0 magnification, and I literally can see way more now. So my dentistry has gotten way better because I can see more, and my body feels so much better. And it makes sense because our head weighs 10 to 12 pounds. It's like the weight of a bowling ball. And for every inch forward, so if you're 1 inch forward in your head posture, that's 20 pounds you're carrying. If you're 2 inches forward, that's 30 pounds. If you're 3 inches forward, that's 40 pounds you're carrying. For most people today, in our modern day life, where we're using our phones, we're like rounding, right, like on our phones, most people sit around 2 to 3 inches forward. So we are holding about 30 to 40 pounds on loading our cervical spine, our neck. And then that causes a whole disruption of imbalances to our entire body. And so so we're going to go into a whole mindful movement practice at the end that I'm going to share with you to improve our alignment in our body so that our head is stacked directly over our shoulders. And because sometimes our posture, like our natural head forward, could actually be in a forward head posture. You might even see this with our patients. That leads to like more headaches, like TMJ stuff, right? And what I found really cool is that you guys are offering the multi magnification ergo loops, which, because I was like, always wondering like what magnification should I get, like, but now you guys have this one, which is you have 3 magnifications in one. And I was wondering like how much does that weigh, right? And I was comparing with my loops, which is about 44 to 52 grams. And the Ergo V, which has the 3 magnifications, is only 59 grams. So it's only like 6 grams more, and you get 3 magnifications. I was like, oh, I wish this existed when I first bought my loops. But anyways, I just wanted to share that because I highly recommend Ergo loops with Andau if you don't already have it. And if you do, drop in the chat how much has changed your life, because it's significant. And currently I don't have my loops because I had to get it back for repairs, and I've been a month without them, and I'm like dying right now without them. So and so I just wanted to also share like what are some of the early warning signs that can often show up before injury develops, right? Like I said, we know the early signs for tooth pain, the hot cold sensitivity, that biting to sweets. So with our body, what that can feel like is if we start feeling achy or soreness after work, but it improves with rest, right? That's an early sign. Another one is discomfort with specific tasks or positions. So let's say you lift something really heavy and you pull something. You're like, oh, I just like pulled something, or you reach something, right? And something gets pulled. Once I slept funny in my bed, and I woke up and I could not turn my head, and it was like really hurting to turn. And when I went to the physio, they found that it was shoulder impingement. Very, very common in dentistry, shoulder impingement. And anyway, so these are early warning signs that we shouldn't ignore, that we should get support for. And there's different practices and tools we can do to unwind that, reverse that, as well as persistent muscle tightness. So if you, let's say, go to the massage therapist, you feel good, right? In that moment, you feel good right after, but all that like neck, shoulder, upper back, jaw pain comes back because we haven't shifted our patterns yet. So we go back to our old patterns. And that's something that we can develop through mindful movement, of realizing what these patterns are and shifting that. And then just some other symptoms is aching, burning, sharp pain, muscle spasms, reduced range of motion, right? When we're having reduced, like our ability to turn our neck is reduced, inflexibility, stiffness, inflammation, joint pain, numbness, tingling, all that. They're all signs that we should not ignore. And obviously we know that this doesn't start suddenly. This is chronic. These are patterns that have been developed compensating for a very, very long time. And if we ignore it, it can become louder, more persistent pain. And if we continue to ignore it, it can become injury, chronic issues that require more invasive treatment, like surgery, having to take time off work, injections, all the things. And so mindful movement, I feel like when people think about mindful movement, they think like, oh, it's just stretching. But it isn't just stretching. And I just want to share that there's so much like depth and support in our health from like the way I love to think about mindful movement is we become our own physiotherapist and chiropractor, where we actually start to align our skeletal system so that our body is more balanced. And it's kind of like Invisalign for our bodies, where when we straighten our teeth, everything becomes more balanced, the forces are more even. The same thing for our bodies. Also, what's really cool about mindful movement is we start to create more health in our joints. So our joints is like a ball and socket. And over time, if we don't like increase that range of motion, right, where the ball can move in all the different ranges of motion, we lose that range of motion, we lose that flexibility. But not only that, when we're stretching, we're actually creating more space between our joints, because what happens when we age? Our synovial fluid wears out, and then we start to have bone on bone, right? When we think about our TMJ, that crepitus, bone on bone, same thing happens in all our joint systems. And so we can prevent that. But also what's happening with mindful movement is we are reducing chronic inflammation because we're activating our parasympathetic nervous system, and it's increasing circulation in our body. It's helping us relax our body. So there's a lot going on. And so we are going to experience right now a about 10-minute practice to experience mindful movement. And so you'll get a recording of this that you can always follow along. So I'm gonna unshare my screen for a moment so that you can see me big, and I'm gonna play some music as well. So just gonna get this set up here. Okay, so I'm gonna unshare my screen. Okay, just 1 second. Is my screen already unshared? Sorry, Cheryl, can you?
I just unshared it, so you
Oh,
should
you
be
just
good.
unshared it for me. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna play some music here. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start my music. Yeah, so this is a practice that you can incorporate in your during at the clinic, but also at home. And you can do this on a chair, or you can do this sitting. So I'm gonna go back a bit so you can see me. So just sitting down, whether that's on the floor or on a chair. And we'll start by placing our left hand to our heart and our right hand to our belly. And we're gonna start by taking 3 releasing breaths. So I'm gonna guide this breath. So you're gonna take a deep breath in through your nose for a count of 3, filling the belly, chest, and rib cage up. And exhale out the mouth. 2 more times, deep breath in through the nose, filling your whole body up. And sigh out the mouth. Oh, 1 more time, deep breath in. And sigh it out. And now opening your eyes and dropping our hands down. We're gonna start to take some circles here. So just lubricating our spine And as we're circling, see if you can connect this movement with breath. So inhaling up and around, exhale down and around. So what also makes it mindful is this connection of movement to breath. And switch direction. So we're just starting to create a little bit more mobility in our spine. And now coming back to center, and now we're going to inhale, reach up, and exhale, cactus arms. So bending your elbows, dropping your shoulders down and back, squeezing your shoulder blades together. Just gentle back bend here, breathing into your chest. And on your next exhale, you're gonna round and relax, bringing the arms forward, relax the head and neck. And again, inhale, arch and open. Exhale, round and relax, bringing the hands forward. So we're going to be doing these what's called seated cat-cows. This really helps to feel that opening in our chest that's undoing the chair. So this opening and rounding. And slowly come back to center, dropping our hands down. And now we're gonna inhale, reach that right arm up and over for a side body stretch here. And we're gonna start to take some circles here with our arm. So if you've had any shoulder injuries, just taking the circles nice and slow, or maybe there's some angulations you want to avoid, but keeping that connection with your breath. Inhale up and around, exhale down and around. So what are we doing is we're lubricating our shoulder joint here. And switch direction. And now coming back to center and switching sides, the other arm up and over. Just noticing this nice stretch along the side body. And now starting to take those arm circles here, inhaling up and around, exhale down and around. And switch direction. And now coming back to center, we're going to go into the neck and shoulders here. So just taking some nice shoulder rolls forwards and backwards. And now sitting up nice and tall, we're going to tilt to that left side, noticing any tension down the right neck and shoulders, taking a couple breaths into that sensation you're feeling. And now inhale through the nose. And now roll the head down and around to the opposite side, holding here for a couple of breaths. Breathing into the sensation you're feeling. And now we're going to start to take some head rolls. So inhale through the nose. Exhale, roll down and around to the left. Inhale. Exhale, roll. So keep taking these half-moon circles in connection with your breath. So we're lubricating our cervical spine. Now we're going to meet back to that left side. And keeping that right arm straight, we're going to take 3 cooling breaths. So that's an inhale through the nose. And an exhale like you're blowing a straw or dandelion out of the mouth. So we're going to take 2 more. With every exhale, see if you can soften that shoulder down a little more, feeling it get heavier. as you're holding, now we're going to take some wrist circles here. So circling that right wrist as we're doing this neck stretch here. So lubricating our wrist joint and switch direction. Keep breathing, nice deep breaths. And now come back to center and shaking that out, rolling forwards and back. And now switching sides. So tilting to this side. We're going to take 3 cooling breaths. Inhale through the nose. And exhale like you're blowing a straw or dandelion out the mouth. 2 more to your own pace. Just feeling that left shoulder get heavy, softening with every exhale. And now noticing that extended left hand and starting to take some circles here. And switch direction. So lubricating our wrist joint. So we're going into our joint health. And now coming back to center and shaking that out, rolling forwards and back. We're going to do a little bit into the forearms and our wrists here. So I'm going to interlace your fingers and start to take a wave-like motion here. So noticing that increase in mobility in your wrist joint, and now switch direction. And then now you're going to extend your right hand, palms face forward, fingers down. You're going to start to stretch our forearms here. Breathing into the sensation you're feeling in your forearms. 2 more breaths. And now switch sides. So switching to the other side, palms face forward, fingers down, and stretching the other side here. One more breath. And slowly unwind and just rolling our wrists in one direction and another. We're going to do one more stretch. It's going to feel so good for our fingers. Interlace your fingers and stretch up to the sky here, stretching our fingers all the way up. And now stretching it forwards. And slowly release and just shaking that out. And now we're going to end in one more posture. So if you're sitting in a chair, just come to your feet here. And we're going to inhale, reach up. And exhale, swan dive all the way down. And now grabbing your elbows here. And just letting gravity do all the work. Letting your head get really heavy. Maybe even rocking side to side, nodding your head yes and no. And feeling that nice stretch along the back of the legs. Feeling that nice release along your entire spine here. And notice that we're letting the blood flow, that oxygenation, that blood flow go to our brains, go to our heart, go to our thyroid, our digestive organs, getting that blood flow, that circulation here. We're going to take a releasing breath together. So inhaling through the nose and sigh out the mouth. Once more, deep breath in through the nose. And sigh out the mouth. And now just dropping the hands down, we're going to come back to our seat here. Slowly coming back to our seat, whether that's our chair or on the floor. You can sit with your legs straight if you want, or knee or cross-legged, however you want to sit. And just, you can place your hands to your thigh, just closing your eyes and noticing how you feel. And now bringing that left hand to your heart and your right hand to your belly. Noticing your breath. Maybe you're starting to breathe slower again. Maybe your heart rate's starting to slow down. And just softening your muscles, relaxing your jaw, your shoulders, your eye sockets, your eyebrows, your cheekbones. Just letting your arms get heavy, your legs get heavy, all your muscles are completely softened. And just noticing how you feel now, noticing what this practice did for your body. Just 10 minutes of this, some of it 1 minute, 2 minutes. And just imagining your life if you have incorporated this all throughout your day, just hits of relaxation, hits of calming our nervous system, activating that parasympathetic response. What would your life look like if you truly committed to your well-being, if you truly committed to the health of your nervous system? In 4 months, what would that look like if you committed for a whole year and you resourced yourself with tools, with knowledge, with practices to feel more ease, presence, connected, energized, real energy from rest? What would your life look like? And just taking a moment to thank yourself for showing up, taking this 90 minutes, showing up for your well-being, for your body, not having to sacrifice our body for a career. There's no need to sacrifice here. What would your life look like? Just opening your eyes. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I'm gonna share my slide again. I know we're running just like 3 minutes over, but hold on, just gonna stop my music for a second. And yeah, share my slides. If you have to hop off, but I do wanna share more about the link to be able to get your C credits and just some like amazing promotions that we wanted to offer. And hold on, let me just share my screen. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Bigger. Okay, there we go. Technology. Okay, where? I don't. Oh, here it is. Share. Okay, portion of the screen. Share. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to my slides here.
Next.
So, and if you want I have a video I can share too for free for you guys. If you want this particular practice, I have one recorded, so I can share that too for free. But yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit more about if you are feeling, inspired to go deeper into more tools for your health and wellness. I wanted to share a little bit more about my full Aches to Ease program, which is specifically for dental professionals to have less pain, be resistant to burnout, and practice dentistry, until our retirement years if we choose to, and also enjoy our retirement. And so it starts in July. It's 4 months long. And the reason why it's 4 months is that we can, gain that neuroplasticity and truly start to rewire our brain and our nervous system and also it's only 2 modules a month. So I wanted it to be very, very easy for our profession, because I know we're very busy, and especially for parents too. It's only 2 modules a month every Sunday, so it's